What up, YouTube? You already know Big Lou tapping back in with what it do with Big Lou. NFZR2, baby. And I'm back on the profile tip. This time we're going to take it to the NFL, National Football League. And we're going to kick it off with, he was born Anthony Drew Dorset Sr. on April 7, 1954 in Rochester, Pennsylvania. He stands 5'11", almost 200 pounds. He went to Hopewell, Aliquippa, Pennsylvania High School, and he went followed by Pittsburgh College, 1973 to 1976. First round, second pick overall, the 1977 NFL Draft. He played with the Dallas Cowboys from 1977 to 1987, and then the Denver Broncos in 1988. Here's a little bit of his career highlights and awards. He's a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl 12, NFL Offensive Player of the Year, 1977, PFWA All-Rookie Team, 1977, First Team All-Pro, 1981, Second Team All-Pro, 82 and 83. He's a four-time Pro Bowler, 1978, 1981, 1982, and 1983. He's a national champion, 1976. He's a Heisman Trophy Award winner, 1976. He's a Maxwell Award winner, 1976. He's a Walter Camp Award winner, 1976. He's a three-time first-team All-American, 1973, 1975, 1976. Pittsburgh Panthers number 33 is retired, and he holds the NFL record for a 99-yard rushing touchdown. That is also tied by Derrick Henry. Some of his NFL career statistics are: his total rushing yards is 12,739 with 4.3 yards per carry average with 77 rushing touchdowns, 398 receptions for 3,554 yards, and 13 touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the College Football Hall of Fame. So from Western Pennsylvania, Dorset attended the nearby University of Pittsburgh, where he led the Panthers to the national title as a senior in 1976, and he won the Heisman Trophy Award. He was the first-round pick of the Dallas Cowboys in 77, like I said, second overall selection from Seattle. Dorset was the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year and played for the team for 11 seasons from 87 to 97. 77 through 87. He played for Denver for one season, like I mentioned, then retired because of injuries. He is a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1994. He got in, and the College Football Hall of Fame also got in 1994. I'm going to give a little background of his childhood. He's the son of Wes and Myrtle Dorset. Grew up in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, which is northwest of Pittsburgh. He attended, like I mentioned, Hopewell High School, where he played football and basketball. As a high school sophomore in 70, Dorset started at cornerback, as his coaches did not believe the 147-pound Dorset was big enough to play running back, the position he played in junior high school. In 71, a competition between Dorset and sophomore Michael Kimbrough for the starting running back position ended after Dorset took a screen pass 75 yards to the house for a TD against Ambridge during the season opener. 72, Dorset was again an all-state selection after setting a single-game rushing record with 247 yards against Sharon, a single-season rushing record with 1,238 yards, and a career rushing record with 2,272 yards while leading the Vikings to a 9-1 season. Professional, he gets, like I said, he comes into the NFL. Okay, well, let's go this way first. Ahead of the draft, scouts were skeptical about Dorset's potential at the professional level, citing his small size as his primary liability and his long-term durability. After being passed over by the Tampa Bay Bucks with the first overall pick, the Cowboys selected him with the second overall pick, which they had acquired from Seattle in exchange for the 14th overall pick, Steve August, 30th overall pick, Tom Lynch, and 41st overall pick, Terry Beeson. And the 54th overall pick, Glenn Carraro. Dorsett had previously told the Seahawks he would not play for them. Dorsett signed a 5-year contract worth a reported $1.1 million, becoming the first contract in Cowboys history to exceed $1 million. It was the second largest contract signed for a rookie that season, with first overall pick Ricky Bell beating Dorsett with a $1.2 million contract. From the beginning, Dorsett and head coach Tom Landry had differing options on how he should run the ball. Landry initially designed precise running plays, but was eventually convinced that Dorsett was a different type of running back and instructed the offensive line to block and hold their man, while Dorsett chose the running lane with his gifted vision and instincts. So like I mentioned, so we're going to go ahead and skip. So he won Super Bowl 12. They won the Super Bowl. They beat the Broncos 27-10, right? That year, he recorded 1,325 yards rushing with 9 TDs. And then we're going to skip to 1980 because this is really about the 80s decade. In 1980, he had one of his best runs with the ball on the 4-yard line against the St. Louis Cardinals. The right defensive end and linebacker had penetration while the two corners were blitzing. Dorsett suddenly pivoted on his right foot, turned 360 degrees, and ran wide around the left side, beating the safety and eluding a total of 5 defenders for a touchdown without being touched. His most productive season was in 81 when he recorded 1,646 yards rushing, breaking the Cowboys franchise record. In 82, his streak of 5 straight years with at least 1,000 rushing yards was interrupted by the strike-shortened season. Dallas only played 9 games, with Dorsett registering 745 yards and 5 TDs. In the final regular season game against the Minnesota Vikings, he set a record that can only be tied with the 99-yard run that Derrick Henry tied in 2018. Prior to the 85 season, he held out, demanding that his contract be renegotiated. Defensive tackle Randy White had been given a larger contract by the Cowboys. In 1986, running back Herschel Walker was signed by the Cowboys and moved to fullback. And just so I want to let everybody know that originally this profile was going to be featuring Herschel Walker, but then when I realized it, for some reason I was thinking Herschel Walker came out in 83 or 84. That wasn't the case. He came out in 86, so I decided to scratch him and put Tony Dorsett, because like I said, I started getting into the sports period about 84-ish. So players had to be at least played 6 years of a decade of the 80s in order to get in, meaning they had to start at least 84 as a rookie season, such as Tony Gwynn, Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Charles Barkley. So that's what happened there. So I just wanted to explain that. So Herschel Walker was signed in 86 by the Cowboys and moved to fullback so he could share some backfield duties with Dorsett, becoming the second Heisman backfield tandem in NFL history after George Rogers and Earl Campbell were teammates on the 84 New Orleans Saints. This move created tension as it would limit Dorsett's playing time. And because Walker's $5 million year contract exceeded his $4.5 million 5-year contract, although Dorsett was slowed by ankle and knee injuries that caused him to miss 3 games, he still led the Cowboys in rushing for the 10th consecutive season with 748 yards. In 87, Walker complained to Cowboys management that he was being moved around between 3 different positions, running back, fullback, and wide receiver, and that Dorsett had more carries. He took over as the team's main running back, with Dorsett playing 12 games, 6 starts, and rushing for 456 yards on 130 carries. Dorsett was not played in 2 games despite being healthy, which made him demand a trade. So on June 2nd, 1988, Dorsett was traded to the Broncos in exchange for a conditional 5th-round draft choice. He left as the franchise rushing leader with 12,036 yards rushing and second in league history in postseason rushing with 1,383. But I remember seeing a lot of highlights of Tony Dorsett, for the, because you would only get, you get the 10 a.m. game, right? There'd sometimes be 2 games on at 10 a.m. or you get the 1 p.m. game, and there'd sometimes be 2 games of those. There would sometimes be 1 morning game and 2 afternoon games, or 2 morning games and 1 afternoon game, and then the night game, the evening game would come on, which would be 5 o'clock, and then of course Monday night. Now since then they got 2 games sometimes Monday night. They got the Thursday night game, and sometimes we have Saturday games. So football has changed a lot with all the deals with the cable stations. You know what I mean? Putting games on and stuff like that. So it's came a long way. Then we have the games too overseas in England and in Mexico and Germany and different places. Where they played overseas too. So that's a plus as well. But I remember, and what I say highlights is because I didn't always see. Dallas wasn't always on, but one thing they were on that you knew you were going to get was the Thanksgiving game was always a Dallas game and a Detroit Lions game. So anybody that doesn't know that isn't really into football. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, you would see those old school backs that were still doing their thing, but they were getting older in age. Such as Tony Dorsett, Walter Payton, Joe Morris, what's his name? O.J. Anderson, which he was going by Otis Anderson. There was a few guys, George, Charles White, few different guys that were still, kicking ass, steamrolling over people and still getting their stats on. You know what I'm saying? So in 88, the Broncos acquired Dorsett because they were desperate to improve their running game. He reunited with former Dallas Cowboy offensive coordinator Dan Reeves, and it was reported that at the age 34, he could still run a 4.3 40-yard dash. With the retirement of Walter Payton the previous year, he was the career leader in rushing yards among active players. He had a positive impact on the offense until being limited with injuries late in the season, appearing in 16 games, 13 starts, while leading the team with 703 rushing yards and 5 rushing TDs. In a November 27, 88 game against the LA Rams, Dorsett threw the only touchdown pass of his career, only the second pass completion in 8 career attempts with 1 interception for 7 yards to fellow running back Sammy Winder. I remember him too. On September 26, 88, Dorsett moved into second place on the all-time rushing list with 12,306 yards and would finish his career with 12,739 yards, trailing only Walter Payton. He retired after having a torn left knee ligaments during training camp the following season. Since then, things changed. Emmitt Smith, first Barry Sanders, then Barry Sanders retired prematurely, but Barry Sanders never had an offensive line. He was still able to create and change routes and do whatever running plays to get his, but eventually Emmitt passed him. Emmitt always had the dynamite offensive line in Dallas, and then he went on to play a little bit more with the Cardinals and add on to his totals. But since then, a lot of guys have got up there in rushing yardage. Dorsett finished this is part of his legacy. He finished, like I mentioned, with 12,739 yards, 77 touchdowns in his 12-year career. So he got an average of 1,000 yards a season every season. That's damn good. Dorsett also had 13 receiving scores and even a fumble recovery for a touchdown. On January 3rd, 83, during a Monday night football game in Minnesota, Dorsett broke a 99-yard run against the Vikings, which is, like I mentioned, still a record to today, but tied with Derrick Henry was able to tie it in 2018. Let's see. Dorsett broke the previous record of 97 yards set by Andy Uram in 39 and Bob Gage in 49. Let's see. Like I mentioned, he got 4 Pro Bowls. He's got a ring. He's got a Super Bowl ring. And see, he was ranked number 53 on the Sporting News list of 100 greatest football players. He is the first of only 2 players in history, along with former running back Marcus Allen, who has won a Heisman Trophy, won a Super Bowl, and won the College National Championship, been enshrined in the College Football Hall of Fame and also in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So only Marcus Allen and Tony Dorsett have done those. College Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Fame, a Heisman Trophy, a Super Bowl ring, and a College National Championship. Let's see, the football stadium at Hopewell High School in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania is named after Dorsett, and in a street near Heinz Field, the home stadium of the University of Pittsburgh is named after him as well. Let's see. Some of his personal life. He has 4 kids, Anthony, Jasmine, Madison, and Mia, with his current wife. His son Anthony also played football at the University of Pittsburgh, and played defensive back in the NFL from 96 to 03, making Super Bowl appearances with the Tennessee Titans, the Raiders, and he is also the uncle of NFL Hall of Fame cornerback Ty Law, a 3-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. Let's see, Dorset hosts the Tony Dorsett Celebrity Classic golf game for McGuire Memorial. This event has raised nearly $5 million in support of McGuire Memorial's mission. That's what's up. Dorset has helped improve the health of current and former professional athletes through promoting awareness of sleep apnea across the U.S. So that's a little bit about Tony Dorsett, man, and what Tony Dorsett has done in his career. And then, like I had mentioned, Herschel Walker was drafted by them, and the rest is history with that as well. But Tony Dorsett, definitely was a big part of Dallas' success with Randy White, Danny White, Ed Too Tall Jones, you know what I mean? Hollywood Henderson, cats like that. So, Eric, this is the other half of the profile. He was born Eric Demetric Dickerson on September 2nd, 1960 in Sealy, Texas. He's currently 62 years old. My bad. Dorsett is currently 68 years old. He stood 6'3", 220 pounds. He went to Sealy High School in Texas, like I mentioned, and he went to SMU from 1979 to 82, and in an 83 draft, first round, second pick overall. He played with the LA Rams from 1983 to 87, the Indianapolis Colts from 87 to 91, the Raiders in 92, and the Falcons in 93. He's the NFL Offensive Player of the Year, 86, NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, 83, 5-time first-team All-Pro, 83, 84, 86, 87, 88. 6-time Pro Bowler, 83, 84, 86, 87, 88, and 89. 4-time NFL rushing leader, 83, 84, 86, and 88. NFL rushing touchdowns co-leader in 84. He's a member of the 1980s NFL All-Decade Team. He's also a member of the NFL 100th Anniversary All-Time Team. The PFWA All-Rookie Team, 83. St. Louis Football Ring of Fame. Indianapolis Colts Ring of Fame. The Rams retired as number 29. In college, he was a 3-time UPI. He was a 3-time UPI NFC Offensive Player of the Year, 83, 84, 86. In college, he was a consensus All-American, 82. Second-team All-American, 81. 2-time first-team All-SWC, 81 and 82. 2-time SWC Offensive Player of the Year, 81 and 82. SMU Mustangs jersey number 19 is honored. And he's got the NFL records of 2,105 rushing yards in a season. Also 1,808 yards rushing in a rookie season. And 248 rushing yards in a playoff game. NFL career statistics, he's got 13,259 career rushing yards of 4.4 average per carry with 90 rushing touchdowns. 281 receptions for 2,137 yards with 6 receiving touchdowns. He's a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the College Football Hall of Fame. So the Rams from 83 to 87, he set the NFL rushing record in 84 while earning many awards. He had a good game in the 85-86 NFL divisional playoff game against the Cowboys. While he considered to be going to LA Express in the USFL, Dickerson decided to go into the NFL. He was selected second overall in 83 NFL draft by the LA Rams, like I mentioned. An immediate success, he established rookie records for most rushing attempts, 390, most rushing yards gained, 1,808 yards, and most touchdowns rushing, 18 as a rookie, including another 2 receiving touchdowns. His efforts earned him All-Pro, Pro Bowl, and Rookie Player of the Year and Rookie Year honors, like I mentioned. In his second season, Dickerson continued his onslaught on the NFL record books, becoming a member of the 2,000-yard club. 12 times in 84, he gained more than 100 yards rushing, breaking the record of 100-yard games in a season held by O.J. Simpson. His 2,105 yards rushing beat O.J. Simpson's 73 NFL season record of 2,003 yards. Dickerson having reached 2,007 yards after 15 games, but since the NFL expanded the regular season from 14 to 16 games in 78, Dickerson had the benefit of playing in 2 additional games. No one has since rushed for more yards in a single NFL season. Dickerson's 5.6 yards per carry led the Rams to a playoff berth in '84. And so during that season, he rushed over 200 yards twice in a game against the St. Louis Cardinals. 21 carries for 208 yards for almost 10 yards a carry. And then again against the Houston Oilers, 27 carries for 215 yards for 8 yards a carry. He also rushed for 175 yards against the New Orleans Saints on 20 carries, which was 8.8 yards a carry. And then he rushed for, against the Tampa Bay Bucks, he rushed for 191 yards on 28 carries for 6.8 yards a carry. Only, 4 times did he not rush over 100 yards in a game. And he had a spectacular year that year. Although he rushed for 1,234 yards and 85 while missing the first 2 games while in a contract dispute, he missed the Pro Bowl for the first time in his young NFL career. He did go on to rush for a playoff record 248 yards against the Cowboys in postseason play. And then he moved on to the Colts, 87 and 91. The 85 season marked the beginning of ongoing contract disputes between Dickerson and the Rams. In 87, and I remember this too, it was plagued. I remember reading about it as a kid. In 87, after playing just 3 games for the Rams during the strike-shortened 87 season, Dickerson was traded to the Indianapolis Colts in one of the NFL's biggest trades ever at that time. In a 3-team deal, the Colts traded linebacker Cornelius Bennett, who was also a Pro Bowler, whom they drafted but were unable to sign to a contract, to the Buffalo Bills for the first-round pick in 88. First and second round picks in 89, and running back Greg Bell. The Colts in turn traded Bell and 3 draft choices from Buffalo plus their own first and second round picks in 88. Their second round pick in 89 and a running back Owen Gill to the Rams for Dickerson. With the picks, the Rams took running back Gaston Green, wide receiver Aaron Cox, and linebacker Fred Strickland, running back Cleveland Gary, linebacker Frank Stamms, and defensive back Darrell Henley. The trade reunited Dickerson with Ron Meyer, who had left the SMU after Dickerson's junior season to take the head coaching position in New England, and who was hired by the Colts in '86 following Ron Dowhauer's firing. Although he played in just 9 games with the Colts that year, he still managed to gain 1,011 yards to finish the season with 1,288 yards rushing. Also, he spearheaded a late-season Colts run that helped the team to their first winning season and first playoff berth in 10 years. In '88, Dickerson, with 1,659 yards rushing, became the first Colt to lead the league in rushing since Alan Ameche in 1955. This would mark the apogee of Dickerson's career with the Colts, although he would gain 1,311 rushing yards in '89. Also, '89 was the year that he passed the 10,000-yard mark, becoming the fastest player ever to do so, 91 games, accomplishing the feat faster than greats like Jim Brown, 98 games, Barry Sanders, 103 games, Emmitt Smith, 106 games, LaDainian Thomas, 106 games. In '89, he had set a new NFL record with 7 straight seasons of more than 1,000 yards rushing and led the league for 4 of those seasons. With the retirement of Tony Dorsett at the end of the '88 season, he became the leader among active players in a career rushing yards, a position he occupied until his retirement in '93. However, injuries, further contract disputes, and suspensions clouded his final 2 seasons with the Colts. Dickerson, at 29, was the highest paid running back in the NFL, receiving an annual reported salary of $1.4 million. Following prolonged contract disputes, the fed-up Colts placed him on the inactive list before the start of the '90 season, where he stayed for 7 weeks and lost more than $600,000 in salary. In his 6th game back from suspension, he rushed for 143 yards against the Bengals on 22 carries. This effort lifted him past Jim Brown to third place on the NFL career rushing list behind Walter Payton and Tony Dorsett. He was again suspended in November of 91 and amidst injuries and age managed to run for only 536 yards that season. The Colts finished the year bottoming out with a 1-15 record. Dickerson has described the trade to Indianapolis as the worst moment of his career and stated that he disliked his time with the Colts. In his final couple years, I'm going to go ahead and include it because there's only two. On April 26, 92, Dickerson was traded by the Colts to the Raiders for their 4th and 8th picks in 92 draft. They were occasional flashes of greatness. 107 yards against the Broncos, 103 yards against the Chargers, where he recorded his 63rd and 64th career 100-yard games, but those would be his last. Dickerson also scored on a 40-yard touchdown run, reminiscent of his prime in front of a nationally televised Monday night game audience in the game against the Kansas City Chiefs. What I like about that is that all three of those games he played well against were all our rivals: the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers. That year, he led the team in rushing attempts and yards. However, he suffered from splitting carries with Marcus Allen by having the latter finish the second half. The following season, Dickerson was traded to the Falcons on July 7, 1993, for a 6th-round draft pick. He played in a backup role, making his final national televised appearance during a Monday night game on September 27, 1993, when the Falcons hosted the Pittsburgh Steelers in a losing effort. The Falcons traded Dickerson and a third-year cornerback Bruce Pickens to the Green Bay Packers for running back John Steffens on October 13, 1993. The trade came a week after Dickerson said he had been told that the Falcons were waiving him because coach Jerry Glanville wanted to use younger players. The next day, Falcons officials said that there had been a misunderstanding and that Dickerson had not been placed on waivers. Dickerson retired as the second leading rusher of all time after failing a physical with the Packers. On August 29, 2017, Dickerson signed a one-day contract to officially retire as a member of the LA Rams. So in 83, he had 1,808 yards rushing, 84, 2,105 yards rushing, 85, 1,234 yards rushing, 86, 1,821 yards rushing. 87 split between the Rams and the Colts. He had 1,288 yards rushing. 88, he had 1,659 yards rushing. 89 is his last year that he had 1,000 plus yards rushing when he finished with 1,311 yards rushing. 1990, he had 677 yards rushing. 91, 536 yards rushing. 92, he moved back to he went with the Raiders with 729 yards rushing. And then Atlanta, he finished with 91 yards rushing for a grand total of 13,259 yards rushing. Right, 146 games played, 136 games started, just 4 carries shy of 3,000 rushing attempts, and he finished with 90 TDs. Let's see. Dickerson became the 7th back to gain more than 10,000 yards and the fastest to ever do so, like I mentioned earlier, reaching the milestone in 91 games during his 11-year career. Again, the 90 touchdowns and 1,300 yards rushing. Let's see. He was, like I mentioned earlier, 6-time Pro Bowl selection. He was voted into the Hall of Fame his first year of eligibility, 1999. He was ranked number 38th on the Sporting News list of 100 greatest football players. The following year, he provided on-field commentary during Monday Night Football. The Rams retired his number, like I mentioned. He's also, he was inducted into the Colts Ring of Honor during the Week 15 against the Houston Texans on December 15, 2013, along with Marshall Faulk, another former Colts running back who coincidentally also played for the Rams, but for the St. Louis Rams, not the LA Rams. In 2019, he was one of 12 running backs selected to the NFL 100th anniversary all-time team. And then also he was, like I mentioned, he was inducted into the College Hall of Fame in 2020. Let's see. Post NFL career, along with Melissa Stark, Dickerson served as a sideline reporter on Monday Night Football broadcast for ABC during the 2000 and 2001 NFL seasons. 2007 football season and 2016 football season, Dickerson worked as a broadcaster for KCBS television in LA, providing commentary for NFL pregame and postgame shows. He started a sports memorabilia company called Original Mini Jerseys with former LA Rams teammate Leroy Irvin. The company received their NFL license in 2006 and sells authentic miniature replica jerseys. He also owns an internet-based sporting goods company, eChamps. Dickerson made a cameo appearance in the television series Hawaii Five-0 in 2014. In August 2016, he began hosting a 2-hour Monday afternoon program on Los Angeles sports talk station KLAC. And in 2017, he competed in the reality television game show The Celebrity Apprentice. He was the third contestant terminated by host Arnold Schwarzenegger. In 2019, Dickerson played a role as LAFD Chief Brinkle in the TV series SWAT. And also in 2017, he joined Fox Sports FS1 as an NFL analyst. Eric Dickerson's running style was smooth. He was a big back, at 6'3". He ran smooth. He run people over, and he brought back. Not brought back, but he was. I would probably say he was one of, along with Marcus Allen at 6'2", Dickerson at 6'3". These were some of the last big backs, taller backs. The next wave of players, the next generation was the 5'8", 5'9" guys such as Barry Sanders, Thurman Thomas, Emmitt Smith, Damian Thomas. These guys were short, and a lot different style running. But Dickerson, I always remember he was a kind of arrogant player from what I can remember. And then he always was, he felt like he wasn't getting paid enough. He wanted more money, and he was definitely in the tabloids for getting paid. You know what I mean? He wanted more money, and he felt like he was worth more money. And then he was watching other guys getting paid, broke off, either on the team, definitely within the league, and he felt like he deserved more. For the career that he had, not counting, with the Raiders, he had over 700 yards rushing. That was pretty good, being that he was there with a lot of other good running backs, the Roger Craigs, the Greg Bales, Marcus might have been still there, but maybe gone. But those couple last years with the Colts, definitely screwed up his productivity, with the injuries and things. But if you look at his first 10 seasons, so many seasons, it seemed that he was going to demolish the record and be way ahead of Walter Payton, you know what I mean, at some point. But, at the time after Tony Dorsett, Walter Payton retired, Tony Dorsett became the new active leader in rushing yardage. And then he retired, and then Eric Dickerson took over as the active leader, active player, leading rusher all time. But then again, like I said, the contract disputes with Indianapolis, they moved on from him, and then the injuries, and he couldn't keep it going, at that high level like he was, that 1,200 yards a season. And he was more between 500, 600, and then 1 year with the Raiders was 700. So it definitely slowed him down, because otherwise he would have probably finished with, you figure you got 4 seasons there with under 1,000 yards, and he was averaging about 1,200, 1,400 yards a season. So you just say 1,000 a season for those 4 seasons, that's 4,000 yards, instead of it only being, what would it be, 1,300, 1,800, 1,900 yards, you would have 4,000 instead. You know what I mean? That would have put him definitely over 15,000 yards rushing. You know what I mean? So, it's one of them things, man. That's why Will Clark mentioned the other day, and this is about baseball, obviously, but it's about the big contracts. He don't necessarily believe in the 10-year plus contracts. He's more of a 5-year and under, contract type of guy. If he was a GM, because it's inevitable. Guys get older, their productivity levels and their stats go down, and then they become more injury prone. And it seems like when guys become injury, they get an injury, they get so much easier and faster they get injured again. And then some guys become injury prone where they're just every season they miss games because of injuries. And so that's why it's better to sign guys for, 3 years to 5 years instead of, 7, 8, 9, 10 years contracts. And in Carlos Correa's case, they signed him to a 13-year deal. He is only 28, so that means pretty much that he's going to, if they keep him for the whole 13 years, he'll be able to get at that age where, it's considered 40, 41, where he's considered, old now, when it comes to sports. So with that being said, Big Lou's going to go ahead and tap on out. Wanted to give you guys a video for today to keep that, whatever it does to the algorithm compared to not putting out a video. So this is my profile, my NFL profile for today on Tony Dorsett and Eric Dickerson. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, first time I didn't say it earlier. And the first time coming to the channel, be sure to, it'd be highly appreciated if you sub, liked, and shared with your peoples, your family, your friends, whoever, your buddy, your pal. Feel free to leave a comment. I'll respond back to the comments. And with that being said, Big Lou, tapping on out.